it is completely true that sometimes unions do bad things. All those things are true because unions are run by people. But what we know is that the more people have unions, greater the power of the working class, the less the power of the oligarchs.
Finally, wanted to wrap up on your book, The Hammer. And, you know, we talked about some of these stories are in your book, but just generally, you know, what is the thing that you want people to take away from your book when they read it?
I hope, I really try to write it so that anybody can read it. You know, you don't have to be like a labor person to read it. You don't have to be a union member. You don't have to really have ever thought about unions, hopefully, to read it, you know, and I just want people to be able to think about how important the role of organized labor is in American society, and the fact that the decline of organized labor is a direct cause of a lot of the bigger political and social and economic problems that kind of torture people and that make them feel that America is broken. And also to show them that that is something that can be turned around. You know, this is not static. Like, we can revive the labor movement. We can turn around the decline of union density, and we can reverse that huge rise in inequality that is kind of screwing up our nation in so many ways and has been for at least 2 or 3 generations now. You know, so I just hope that if people read it, they can think about, you know, the centrality of organized labor to all of these other problems, and using organized labor as a tool to fix all these other problems. And also the fact that we have a moment of opportunity now that could very easily be squandered if we don't really act with urgency and vision and ambition and big investment in this moment.
You know, that's a question that we've asked a few people now about that, and obviously we believe the same thing, that unions and organized working people are really the center if you want to change anything in, you know, the country or the world, frankly. But that is not a sentiment that is shared. You know, there are some that believe that unions are just, one among many special interest groups. Sometimes they do good things, sometimes they do bad things, but they only represent their members, and they're not really a broader social force, and you shouldn't think of them as a broad social force. And so in the interest of, you know, operating in the interest of their members, they will sometimes do things that are ancillarily beneficial for other people, and sometimes they'll do things that are ancillarily harmful for other people. Is kind of this alternative sentiment. And you know, there's this one YouTube streamer, Destiny, who has that opinion. Basically, he's not a big fan of unions, not a super antagonistic to them, but you know, he's just like, they're just, you know. What would you say? How would you justify, right, your belief that unions and working people are really central to changing the world, changing the country? How would you justify that thesis?
I mean, a union is a tool, right? A union is a tool that is wielded by people. And so as an observation of reality, it is completely true that sometimes unions do bad things. Sometimes unions are selfish. Sometimes unions are short-sighted. All those things are true because unions are run by people. But what we know, and what we know from American history even, is that the more people have unions, the more all these good things happen. You know, the more union density goes up, the more economic equality we have, the greater the power of the working class, the less the power of the oligarchs. You know, the more equal our political system is, the more responsive our political system is to working people's needs. Safety goes up, discrimination goes down. All these great things come with an increase in union density and union power. You know, so I mean, it's not surprising that a lot of people don't think about the labor movement as the answer to all their problems, because most people aren't involved in the labor movement, you know? So like, I say to the general public, I try to like say all these things about how many good things can happen with the power of organized labor, you know? But when I speak to the labor movement, I try to say, look, it's our responsibility to go out and give unions to the 90% of people that don't have them, because it's no surprise that people don't give a damn about organized labor when only 10% of people are union members. That's ridiculous. We have to go unionize millions and millions of new people. That is the task of the labor movement. That's our responsibility. And all the great potential things that labor can do are not going to come true if we don't do that, if we don't go out and give unions to the millions of people that don't have them. So, I mean, I'm never surprised if someone is skeptical about unions or has had a bad experience with unions, but I hope that people can think about the possibilities and what can be, and then think about what we need to do to make that come true.
Hamilton Nolan, you can read his Substack at hamiltonnolan.com, and the book is called The Hammer: Power, Inequality, and the Struggle for the Soul of Labor. Really appreciate your time. Looking forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks, Ben. You guys are awesome. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks, brother.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Yeah, I really love the book. I'm sure you'll enjoy finishing it, Jacob. I highly recommend it. And Hamilton did accomplish what he set out to do in terms of something that's very highly readable. You don't have to be a union nerd like myself and to pick it up and get through it. Lots of great stories inside of it. I really enjoyed learning about Unite Here and their model of success, and got a lot of good ideas about how that could be replicated, I believe, but also, hearing some of the, the tougher stories of the losses and defeats that we all experience. I think it's necessary to tell those stories as well. Something that really resonated with me in Hamilton's book is that, labor isn't just another special interest, because labor at its best is the majority interest, right? It's the interest of the vast majority of us who are working class. Labor is most of us. Most of us are not in labor unions, not yet, but the interest of labor at its best is the interest of the working class, which is the vast majority of us. And, I think that is why I agree with Hamilton's analysis and his thesis about how the labor movement is, critical to any sort of theory of change for this country. And, we're dealing with so many crises at this moment. But building people power among working folks and organizing in the workplace, and then using that organizing in the workplace to build power outside of the workplace, in the community, at the ballot box, that is, our pathway to success. I think, it's what I believe is the only way we're going to transform the South. It's the only way I think we're going to be able to make Alabama a better place. Is when folks, particularly folks of different racial backgrounds, gender, other religion, other things that divide us. There's a lot that divides working class people. We are the majority, but we're the most diverse section of society in all those different ways. And so it can be tough sometimes to act like a majority, but we have so much in common. We have common interests and we have common enemies. And so the more we can unite around those common interests, that's where our power lies. And I think labor unions are that tool. They're not the only tool, but I think they are probably the most critical tool. I do believe that labor unions can be working in conjunction with worker co-ops. I think that's a really important part of our strategy as well, growing cooperatives. I think, the electoral and policy side is important as well, building out networks of mutual aid and other forms of just solidarity. That's all important, but organizing unions in the workplace, it's, one of the most important things that any of us can do to grow worker power, and growing worker power is the task ahead of us if we're going to make anything better in this country. Because right now we've got such inequality. I mean, that the Gilded Age robber barons, the bourbon monarchs, they would be blushing at the level of inequality we have today. And the only way we've ever made things better in this country is through struggle, through organized people power, building mass movements of working people that can push and pull and pressure until we make things better. So that's the job ahead of us. So yeah, I really appreciate Hamilton's work, and can't recommend his writing enough. So check out his new book, read his Substack, HamiltonNolan.com. He just put out a great article about liberal institutions. I really enjoyed that one as well. So, shout out to Hamilton. We also want to say it speaks to the need for labor media. We need a whole lot more folks doing what Hamilton's doing. And we need to make sure folks doing what he's doing can, make a living doing it. There are some great labor reporters out there, but there's not enough of them. And those that are out there doing good work are, scraping and struggling to get this stuff published and covered and make a living doing it. So we need robust support for labor media. So as labor unions, as institutions invest in new organizing, which they should be, don't forget to invest in labor media as well, because we've got to be able to reach people, education, outreach, and counter propaganda. It's all part of, what we have to do if we're going to make a difference.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.